Okay, I'm going to start just by taking and putting a little bit, to tear off this little piece of styrofoam here. It's a new ink. Oh, I have just made a mess all over my hand. Let's see if I can do this without making my hands completely black today. There we go. Just as a little reminder, pen and ink is permanent. If you get it on your clothes, it will not come out. So you just need to know that when you're working with it. You do not want to be wearing white pants or anything like that. And it will get and stain your hands. It'll come out eventually. You just have to know that it's rather unforgiving in a lot of ways. I'm going to take and just get a little bit of the ink and drop it into one of these little trays here. Might even get two of them so that I can create two different values of black. Okay, wipe that off here. I actually enjoy working with ink wash quite a bit. I'm going to just thin these guys down a smidge by grabbing some clean water or clean-ish water, and I'll do like these big mop brushes are great. I'll drop like 2 drops here, do a couple extra drops here, and then I'll add lots of water to this guy. Okay, sweet. Now I've got like 3 roughly different values by adding a little bit of extra water. To start with, I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to gently sketch out where I want to have my sphere, just so I have kind of a rough idea of where to be. And I'm going to go ahead and put the top on my pen and ink because I'm going to demo that later. I don't want to risk getting it. We want to take, again, mostly clean water here. Gotten a little bit messy. And we just want to start off by putting a thin wash down where we're going to be putting the first layer. The key with working with ink wash is this idea of maintaining your areas that are really, really light. So, and you have to build it up over a period of time. So as I'm going along here, I'm just going to put in this. Now I want to grab my particularly thin version. I'm just going to lay that in. You'll see that it does this beautiful bleed. Did not necessarily need to add the water first, but I find that it helps to kind of keep things a little bit softer. Okay, so that's actually pretty dark, but that should work. Okay, and I'll bring it on down here. There, okay. You can also take with your brush, it's always good to have a piece of paper towel handy, and you can actually pull some of this value out of there, almost like you're mopping it up. Which is a very handy trick if you got down too dark too quick. It is worth noting that with ink wash, it's nice to be doing this on a relatively robust piece of paper, 140 pound in my mind minimum. Otherwise it really starts doing a lot of what's the word, buckling up underneath, and you're going to get a little of that no matter what you do. All right, I'm going to kind of stop there for this, let that dry, and then I'll come back and I'll add additional layers in just a little bit. Okay, pause. Okay, so as you can see, I've let this dry, and it is generally speaking actually getting a sense of the form already. Remember, to create a sense, the illusion of form, you need to have at least 3 values. You have your highlight, you have your midtone in here, and you've got your shadow. What we want to do is go ahead and take it one more step so that we can push that shadow value down a little bit darker. So it's had a nice time to dry. It's dry to the touch. I will go ahead and take my little detail brush that I have here. Always remember with your brushes to dry them off and take them out of the water. So if you're waiting in between kind of layers, I'm going to go ahead and take from this middle layer here. I always like to use diluted ink. I don't like to use the super duper. Straight ink, as a general rule of thumb for washes, it just tends to be too black and a little too dark and not easy to work with. Okay, so with any kind of a sphere, you know, we're going to have that follow. That's already, ooh, that's dark. All right, so we're going to have to really blend that out. We're going to have this work here. Okay, so I'm going to have it kind of follow along the edge here. I'm going to switch to straight water and just try to blend that shadow out. If you work quickly, you can avoid any hard edges on your lines. I'm going to go straight with just straight water. And with each layer, I'm trying to kind of extend, soften that edge as much as I can. I'm going to adjust the brush. Dry off my brush a little bit. See if I can pull some of that color up and out. What you want to avoid, you don't want to have a hard edge. And that is easier said than done. Gradually kind of pull in here. Okay, all right. I am going to go ahead and with this lay in this shadow, a little layer on that shadow. Maybe I would extend just a little bit more out. And like I did last time, I want to take and dry off my brush. Try to pull a little bit out with the sphere. You tend to have a little bit of a highlight, not a highlight, but that reflected light that's on the bottom side. I really need to probably change my water. If I can just pull a little bit out here. It may not be gonna work for me, so I may have to do one more layer. Nope, I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna do one more layer, and after this dries, and I'll come in here, but I'll make sure to save this little bit of a highlight here. Still probably getting a little too dark as I go up this way, but it's making progress. Just kept trying to keep it from getting too dark up along those edges. All right, that's that. Okay, so we want to put our last layer in on our nicely dried to the touch sphere that we're doing here with ink washes. Got to get a little water on my brush. And again, I'm going to pull from this middle one. That seemed to be plenty dark enough. So this time I want to make sure to save my highlight here. So as I lay my value on, I'm going to try to paint around that little edge that I know exists. Try to preserve that little touch of a highlight underneath there. And just let that kind of go. Blend that out. The hardest part with ink wash really is trying to avoid the lines, those edges that you get. And the best thing that I have found that really works is just blending it out with some water. Again, my water's getting pretty dirty, so I would probably be wise to switch that up. But I am just going to soldier on. Blend that line out with just a little bit of just straight water. Yeah, that looks nice. Good. And right down here, I'm just going to very, very gently see if I can soften that edge. There we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, good. And the thing I find again with ink wash is it take the time to do lots of practicing. When that dries, it'll be really nice. If I wanted to, I could go in another layer. But again, with any of these media, the goal is really to try to have, again, 3 values: highlight, midtone, shadow, at bare minimum. If you're able to achieve that, you're going to end up with something that looks like it has form. And then the rest of it comes down to, what is your old master mark look like? What are the characteristics of it, the qualities of it, and then trying to really capture that. So I will stop there.